Just back from the ITExpo. Fort Lauderdale. It's the Tech Super Show, also the MSP Expo show. It's in, like I mentioned, Fort Lauderdale in the big convention center, the Broward County Convention Center. It's my fourth year going. I brought the podcast, obviously, this year. I had great interviews, great discussions. I started off with Colin Bunyard, great conversation with him, Dan Gribble as well. Joshua Lieberman, who's one of our past MSP 555 winners, Corey Kirkendall, Morgan Hines. Great to talk to Morgan. And lastly was Jill Schaffenlaffel. I don't think I pronounced that correctly, Jill. I apologize, but incredible security professional. She used to be with the Department of Defense. The event was, I was mainly there for the great Channel Wise, Catherine Rose Coaching Cafe, where I got to talk to different people attending about just general coaching issues. But these are the interviews from that event, and they were great guests, and I love talking with them. Thanks so much for listening and watching.
Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. I found myself at 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. I took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People ask me, how'd you do it? What's the secret? I need to lose weight. How'd you do it? How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others.
So your choice between beach and mountain is what?
Beach all day.
Really?
All day.
Do you not like the mountain or just prefer the beach?
No, I love the mountain. So I actually moved up to North Carolina for a year.
Yeah.
And I thought the lakes were going to do it for me. And I miss the beach so much. It's
Really?
like my happy place. I go like 3 times a week.
Lake Beach doesn't do it.
No.
Look at
I need
that.
the
Look at
salt.
the change on your face.
I didn't realize how happy it made me. I grew up like always near the ocean and the water. I go like 3 days a week after work, and sometimes like go and with some friends and have a beer. Sometimes I go by myself and read a book or
Isn't that something?
do trainings or scroll LinkedIn or whatever.
Because when you're at a lake, you can see the other side, whereas as a beach, you can't.
I think it's the salt water.
It's the actual water composition itself.
I think that and like the salty air like just feels good. Like you're never stuffy near the water. You're never upset. Like, when's the last time you were at the beach and you were in a bad mood?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
You know?
Yeah.
Like everyone's running around the IT conference and they're so excited to be here. They're all defrosting. We're right next to the ocean. They're stoked.
Do you want to connect with business leaders and engage consumers who take action? The Joey Pinz podcast delivers high-impact conversations to an audience of decision makers, entrepreneurs, and professionals across multiple industries. A fast-growing audience of highly engaged listeners, both B2B and B2C. Millions of listens and views across YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Brands that sponsor us see real engagement, conversations, and brand loyalty. Whether you're looking to sell a service, promote a product, or establish thought leadership, our sponsorships offer premium ad placements, exclusive episode sponsorships, full season branding, and event partnerships. Don't just advertise, become part of the conversation. Visit us at joeypins.com/sponsor to get started, or email us at sales@joeypins.com. Joey Pinz Podcast, where thought leaders, brands connect.
And how many countries have you been to?
Over 70. I think about 71.
Tell me about it. Some ones that stick out, some ones that stand out. You want to go back?
I love Portugal. I love a bunch of the islands in South America. I really like Thailand as well. Obviously, commonality of the ocean.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I've been really lucky. Both my parents worked for the airlines growing up, and so I caught the bug very early on.
Yes, yes.
So it was cheaper for us to go hang out in like Belize for a weekend or Mexico than it was to go to Disney. So. And
countries you wouldn't go back to?
Ooh. I don't know about countries overall, but cities. Tokyo wasn't really my vibe. Not a big city girl.
Right.
Like
You're
I like
beach.
I like beach. I like small towns. I like getting to meet people and go to local mom and pop restaurants and everything else. Like, was it incredible to go do like Shinjuku Crossing and all of that kind of thing? Like, absolutely.
Right.
Do I feel like I checked that box and I'm good now? Also, absolutely. But people were all very nice, but I'd rather, go up and hang out in the mountains for the week or, I like the slower paced mom and pop shops. I think we're all running around and so busy all the time to take a step back and hang out is nice.
It's not that you didn't like it. It's just like you kind of checked it off, don't want to go back.
Good.
Yeah. And how about the language barrier?
I'm really good at like beer, bathroom, right, left, forward in a good amount of languages. But the rest, I think you make it work. Some translation, some like really bad sign language,
Charades?
Everyone speaks food. Yep, charades. Everyone speaks food, right? Like everyone that I'm very willing and open to try anyone's food, and I'll try whatever the local cuisine is, no matter how different it is from our regular American diets. And I think people always love that, and so I've gotten really lucky with just meeting some great people. I think that's kind of what travel ends up boiling down to.
So pick a favorite place and give advice on how Americans should go there.
Ooh. So Portugal is great, right?
You mentioned Portugal.
Yeah. So I think you fly into Lisbon, spend like 2 days, kind of acclimate. It's the most Americanized. They speak a ton of English.
Do they?
It's a really easy way to kind of get immersed. And then go up the coast, maybe take a train, stop in a small town or two. And I think it's a really good marriage of people speaking English and being a bit touristy, where you're going to be comfortable, you're going to be safe, and then kind of maybe make your way up to like Porto, do some wine tastings. And then it's kind of best of both worlds. You get the city, you get the small little beach towns, and then you get a little taste of almost Italy. All in one.
And have you been to Italy?
I have. Love Italy. I want to explore more. I've only been for like a couple of days at a time. I haven't been lucky enough to really park myself. I see kind of two versions of trips, like a quick weekend, hit the big city, whatever it is, and spend 2 days there and explore. But I also really love, I'm very lucky to work remote, to go and park myself somewhere for a couple of weeks and truly, explore and immerse in culture.
Yeah. My father's Italian, and so he'd send me there as a kid. And whenever I tell friends that are going there, I give them 3 pieces of advice. I wonder.
Tell me.
The first is ask the police where they eat. Everybody else gets paid.
That's
the
good. I like that.
Taxi drivers, everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets paid.
Yeah.
They'll be honest.
Love it.
2, if the menu is in English,
Gotta go.
Keep going.
With you on that.
And even better if it's on a chalkboard.
Ooh. I think that's a universal thing.
Yeah,
I don't think
guess
that's an
true.
Italian
No matter
thing.
where you are, better
Yeah.
if it's on a chalkboard.
Even if I'm like in the city, like if I'm in New York City and
That's
it's on a chalkboard and it changes all the time, I'm in. I like
Love
that. Okay, number 3.
Last, wine from the carafe is less expensive and oftentimes better than in the bottle.
Ooh,
It's local.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. The first time I got wine in a carafe, I was a little judgy.
Yes.
I thought we had put some boxed wine into a carafe or something. I was a little nervous, but I think I'm with you. I've gotten some really cool local wines I would have never in my whole life known to order.
Exactly. And they make more money with the bottled wine. They could charge more. They can up. Whereas the craft, they just kind of, beat their costs.
Yeah.
As I give that more advice, I know a lot of it's focused around food, but that's Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I travel for people and food. If there's not good people and good food, then what are we doing there?
In Bangkok and Thailand, the food is incredible there, too.
So good.
So different,
I'm a
but
big
wonderful.
street food person, too. I don't know how adventurous you are with street food.
Yes, I would love it.
If it's any kind of mystery meat, any kind of funky, like someone doesn't speak English and it looks good, it smells good.
Yeah.
Dude, that's my dream.
That's it.
I'm in.
So it's just a coincidence then that you're actually in the travel industry, that you're on a platform that travels.
It is completely on accident. I think like most of us that find ourselves in partnerships, no one dreams their whole lives as a kid of getting into partnerships.
Yes.
I found my way to my the weirdos that we are, that like the marriage of marketing and sales. And then I made my way back to my travel people.
That's
kind of the
amazing.
same way.
It's such an education, travel.
Yeah.
It's such an education.
I completely agree. I learned more from doing, seeing, and talking than I think I ever read from a history book or a culture, whatever kind of things that we read growing up. And school was fine. I did it. I went to college. I checked the box, but I can't tell you it was something I was history and learning about other places in the world was never number one on my list. But as I've traveled, I've completely fallen in love with places, and then I've been inspired to go back and actually learn and read about them.
Indulge me for a moment, Morgan. So I'm 10 years old,
Yep.
right? And it's first day of summer. It's third grade, and the first day of summer. My father was an Italian immigrant.
Yeah.
Gives me a suitcase and says, put your clothes in here. I said, sure, Dad. I put my clothes in there. He brings me, I'm from the Northeast. He brings me to the bus station, New Haven, tells the bus driver to drop me off Terminal 1 JFK, gives me a picture of my grandmother and a plane ticket. I get on the bus, doesn't even bring me to the airport, go over to the JFK, find people, I get on a plane, I fly to Italy, meet my grandmother for the first time, my uncle. So now my father would be arrested for sending a 10-year-old by themselves.
100%.
So I get immersed into this culture all by myself. Nobody speaks English, but not really by myself because all my relatives are there, cousins.
I love that.
And so, yes, that's how I got introduced to Italy as a child.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
My parents did something very similar things. Again, travel industry, they would just throw me on an airplane.
That's
and
right. Yeah.
cousin
They
or
didn't even think
uncle
me
or
up.
whoever would come pick me up somewhere. And it's funny to say that now because we forget.
So foreign.
It's so foreign. And you
Yeah.
tell people that, and they're like, there's no way they'd let a kid travel by themselves.
Right.
And like, there used to be these I remember notarized papers they would send me with saying that like, insert person was allowed to pick me up in the country from like customs or I don't even know how that part worked, but I would show up with my little baggie of information, and
Isn't that something?
I think it's the best.
It is the best. And do you travel domestically?
I do, not as much as I probably should. A lot of my work travel is domestic. So then when I have a chance to explore on my own, I tend to lean international.
Interesting.
But I really need to hang out at home a bit more. Nothing makes me feel like a worse American than when I go overseas and someone from like a very obscure small place tells me about places in the US and how amazing and like life-changing it was for them. And I'm like, maybe I should check that out.
Interesting.
Wow.
And that's very opposite from most Americans. Most Americans travel here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much to see. It's just so different.
Yeah. I think the one thing I don't stick up for our education as a whole, like very often, or even my own. But the one thing I always feel bad is Americans really get the short end of the stick when it comes to geography. But you could lay all of Europe inside of,
You sure can.
America. So when people are like, oh, I'm from insert place, I don't think they realize you could drive 3 days and still be in Texas.
Yes. Yes, you certainly can. Yeah.
So
we're here in Fort Lauderdale, speaking of traveling.
Yeah.
We're at the ITExpo, Tech Show, MSP Expo. What are some of your goals here, Morgan?
So I love the IT space. I think that everyone's always trying to stay on the up and up, really trying to stay hip to what's new. And obviously the space is ever changing, right? Like AI has been a hot button for so long now. And it seems like every time you turn your head, there's something new and exciting happening in the space. So selfishly, I always like to kind of stay on top of that myself. But we are building a channel program at Navan. And so introducing corporate travel to the conversation with a lot of these IT consultants and MSPs. I don't think travel and expense has been a piece of the puzzle in that conversation because traditionally it's been the same players in the space and it hasn't been the best experience.
Very true.
Your brand deserves to be in front of the right audience decision makers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ready to take action. That's exactly who listens to the Joey Pinz podcast. Thousands of engaged business leaders and consumers tune in every week. Millions of views and listens across YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Sponsors see real impact, higher engagement, brand trust, and conversations. We offer strategic partnerships tailored to your goals, including targeted ad placements, branded guest appearances, multi-episode and event sponsorships. Make your brand part of the conversation. Let's grow together. Visit joeypins.com/sponsor to explore sponsorship opportunities or email us at sales@joeypins.com. The Joey Pinz podcast, where brands and thought leaders connect.
When I had my MSP, I would travel a lot and I would just book it all myself. But it's interesting if there's a platform available that I could actually bring expenses in and actually do the traveling there. Now, how does it differ from any other travel platform, a commercial one, what's ready available?
Yeah, so kind of two sides. One, we have way more inventory. So we are able to pull from something called Global Distribution Systems. So they are GDSs. And so that's the same way that all of these large corporate tools pull inventory. The same way airlines earmark specific pieces of their inventory for these different purposes. We have both access to those and consumer grade sites and direct from vendors. So the options are all there.
Wow.
But the second thing is we have a ton of inventory. I'm sorry, not a ton of inventory. We have a ton of travel actually being done on the platform, which means when we go to these brands, we have much better negotiating power. So instead of a single company going to a hotel chain and saying, hey, we're going to spend $3 million with you this year in hotel rooms, or even less so for a small MSP, give us a better corporate negotiated rate.
Interesting.
We're able to do that on behalf of all of our client spend. So not just saying, hey, our one client spends $2 million, but globally, we have over $1 billion in spend. Give us a corporate negotiated rate based on that. And then we're able to give that out to all of our clients, no matter their size. So where in the past, you were kind of at the mercy of whatever Google was showing you that day, now you have access to these great rates, and then being able to tie expenses into it and have all that reconciliation happen without manual intervention is a game changer.
Wow. Yeah, you keep on saying inventory. I don't really look at flying as inventory, but you're saying more of actual just if an MSP wanted to put on an event, right? They could help. They could reach out to you.
They could, yeah. So if they wanted to book, let's say they want to bring their 8 employees and do a little offsite in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yes.
Like you're based in the Northeast, you're all frozen this time of year, right? Like we want to do a little team building. You can come on to Navan, you can book that, get some really, really great rates, book all your flights there. You have complete oversight of what your entire team is doing, input policy and controls so they're not, maybe your SDRs shouldn't be flying first class while you're hanging out in premium economy. Make sure that's all set up, have complete oversight, and then it flows through the expense tool without any manual intervention.
Amazing. And as far as travel points and TSA pre and all those kinds of things,
all of it.
They all got past that.
All of it. I'll tell you, I'm a snob when it comes to points. I
Me
think
too.
all of us, when we live on the road, if we're going to live on the road, I want my Marriott points, I want my American points, and everything flows through the same way. My last trip, I got upgraded very nicely thanks to Marriott, but it was booked through Navan, so I still see all those things.
Wow.
And then we also have something called Navan Rewards. So we incentivize people to continue using the platform, including employees, to spend below whatever their policy is so they can earn Navan Rewards on top of the traditional hotel, flight, car, rail programs.
So Navan has its own reward point system.
Yep.
Oh, that's real smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really attractive. And what happens if price gets reduced on a flight? Is there price drops?
Today, that's not something that we really go after. We haven't had a ton of requests from the corporate side. Most of when corporations are coming to us, they're looking for access to all these different places they have to travel, which are different. It could be just in the US, it could be abroad as well. And then because the rates are so good, overall throughout the year, they're still finding cost savings.
Very interesting.
So SMBs generally sit around 15% cost savings for the year on travel, which is, depending on the size of the business and how much travel they're doing, it can be a significant line item.
Wow. And it also, how about transportation? I mean, it doesn't cover.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. I mean ground transportation.
So flights, hotels, rail, and rental cars. We also have black car service as well, depending on needs. Black car service is a little bit different depending on cities, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes. Yes.
But rail, cars, flights, and hotels are, for all intents and purposes, everywhere.
And an MSP has many small to medium sized business clients.
Yeah.
So the idea is to get a platform on this, like this, for the MSP, and then for them to offer it to their clients as well.
Yeah, and we take care of the MSPs pretty handsomely as well. We've built out a really strong program to make sure everyone's really winning.
Wow.
And we find that the clients are really happy. Like I said, it's a great platform. Like the UI, UX, it's consumer grade. It's something, like I always joke and say, if my grandfather could use it, it's so easy.
Wow.
He wouldn't be happy about it, but he also wouldn't be happy about going to Marriott's website and booking his own either, but really simple.
Can you book tours as well?
Not today. Again, not a ton of requests from corporations to book
Right.
tours. Generally, if they're
Right.
doing something, it's part of an overall event. But never say never.
And resorts and things like
Yeah.
all-inclusive resorts and things like that?
So all inclusive with an asterisk. So sometimes there's different rates. So for example, I booked recently and I got $100 a night in resort credits and those sorts of things. So there's lots of options there.
Very interesting.
But it's definitely geared towards the corporate traveler. But what I also like is once you're on the platform, you can use it for personal travel as well. So for example, over the holidays, I live in Fort Lauderdale. I was going to go down to the Keys for the weekend.
Nice.
Unfortunately, the hotels were wildly priced.
Whoa.
Shockingly, the week between Christmas and New Year's, busy. I looked on Navan and it was significantly cheaper, so I was able to book through Navan and take advantage of those rates myself, like on my personal time as well. So it's really a win across the board. I had some Navan rewards I was looking to spend as well, so I put that towards my total as well, and was a very happy employee over winter break.
And that happens because Navan secures a bunch of rooms and places to lower the prices?
Yeah, so
It's
we
incredible.
negotiate these corporate negotiated rates, or CNRs, directly with these vendors. And so where with really large corporations, there's teams that have traditionally handled this. We do it at such scale that our rates are just very, very competitive. It's the same way if you think about how insurance brokerages work, how they negotiate those better rates based on the thousands and thousands of people that fall under the umbrella instead of just the 3 people that work at your MSP.
I see. Now, can any consumer just go on Navan and create an account?
So you do have to be a business. You do have to have a domain-based email.
I
So
see.
you cannot log in with a Gmail or a Yahoo or whatever else you got going on. But as long as you have a domain-based email, you can get started, and then you can load in your Gmail and everything else for your personal travel on the side.
And so, an MSP, should they just do that, or should they engage with you? What's your message to MSPs now? If they
Yeah, I'd love to connect with them. We have some really cool incentives and rates and rewards that we can offer through our lovely channel community. We're always trying to take care of each other that way. And then if it makes sense for their clients, we can figure out some cool arrangements there. We, like I mentioned before, take care of our MSPs pretty handsomely for those referrals.
And your competition in this space, like American Express?
Yeah. There's
Expedia?
other tools. So like everyone knows SAP in this world.
Sure.
So they have some travel tools. The difference is they're really focused up market, and that's where Navan traditionally went to market. And we did something really interesting. About 3-4 years ago, we realized that no one was managing small business travel, and it's such a huge market that's underserved. And they've just been told that corporate travel wasn't for them for years. So for small businesses, we actually give the platform away completely for free. And then as they ideally grow and scale, they will continue to love us, continue to use us, and move into paid clients on the road. So it's really a volume game and showing people how incredible the platform is. Because once they use it, they're not going to want to leave to go go through all that change management and go through the cost and everything else associated with moving platforms.
Morgan, has there been anything in the last month or so you changed your mind on?
Yes, actually. One of my less great qualities is I am a bit stubborn and I'm a bit strong-willed. And so, like I mentioned, I'm relatively new to Navan, and I have some really strong views on like how programs should be set up and what's successful. And I pushed back pretty significantly on a new idea for a type of partner. And we just kind of let it run in the background. We weren't putting any effort towards it. And today it's one of our largest producing channels, and I had to eat crow on that one a bit. But I'm happy. That's a good reason to have to be wrong.
Sure.
So
Yeah, you said stubborn. Is that being stubborn or just being
strong-headed, maybe?
strong-headed?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little of both.
Yeah. I think everyone's got some strong biases. I think I'm just quicker to maybe admit mine loudly.
Could you work in another industry? You love travel so much.
I do. I came from the CRM and marketing space, and I really liked it. I'm a really strong believer, and I'm not a huge fan of corporate like jargon and idioms and everything else, but that we work with people, and building strong relationships is really what I enjoy. I don't call myself a marketer. I probably have 2 creative brain cells that I can spark together. But I loved the marketing space, and I loved adding to portfolios for IT consultants and MSPs and making a difference in people's businesses. And the travel space is just a different version of that. I'm still working with partners that I love, and I'm still seeing that we're making an impact on people's businesses and lives. And I'm still working with some really cool people.
Yeah, because it's flattering that a great platform like yours would want to work with MSPs to see the value there. You know, I think that's the way MSPs should really look at it, because they probably never thought about travel as something they could actually perhaps even monetize and be able to share with their base.
Yeah, and I think what's different is in most MSP conversations that I see, at least, it's unhooking other options. It's, hey, we're a better cyber option. Hey, we're a better telco option. We're a better whatever it is. And I think what's really exciting about the opportunity with Navan is no one's really talking about travel and expense. And so it's another complementary service to really better serve those clients and then also monetize it. It's truly win-win.
Yeah. So, Morgan, I started my MSP in the 90s, and I was working way too hard, not paying attention to my health. I'm in front of my doctor. I'm 340 pounds, 46-inch waist. She says to me, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. Scared the hell out of me. I'm driving home, upset with myself, punching the steering wheel. And so I spent the next 6-7 months, lost 130 pounds. And I tell her, yeah. People ask me how, like there's some secret. And I say, discipline. That's how I lost it. I just, motivation, willpower. How does discipline play a role in your life, Morgan?
I truly think I was lucky to be put in a position where I was forced to work very early in my life. I was in a position in life where I really had to kind of pull myself up by the bootstraps, and I paid for school. I started working in middle school, paid for college myself cash, and I've been working ever since. Maybe I wouldn't suggest the private college when you're paying cash for the future version of me, but I really see commitments as things that you just do. I worked and went to school at the same time, and I didn't stop and think about how that's a lie. I did think about how awful my life was at the time, but it was never an option of whether or not I was going to go to work or whether or not I was going to go to class. I think that if you just keep pushing yourselves on the non-negotiables, so like for me, it's working out 3 days a week, it's showing up my best version of myself at work every day, and it's getting, my to-do list done. The rest can fall into place. And if you want to sit on your couch when you're done doing that and, whine about how hard your life is, that's fine. But I find most of the time when you just get it done and get it out of the way, you don't really want to wallow and complain about it later on because you're happy you accomplished something.
Pushing on the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
And some of those are?
So for me, it's working out at least 3 days a week, getting outside at least 2 days a week. I mentioned my love for the beach.
Yes.
It's preferred if it's near the beach, but if it's not, spending at least half an hour outside, I find really makes such a large impact on my day. I think sometimes we think if we just work for 15 more minutes, we're going to have some major spark of inspiration. I find that if I step away for half an hour, go stand outside, enjoy the weather, get some fresh air, and come back, I'm a much better person for it. And then last on the personal side is really showing up for my friends and family. I try to carve out a certain amount of time every week to really connect with loved ones.
It's important to keep that connection.
Absolutely.
What motivates you, Morgan?
I really think just growth. And I don't think growth needs to just be career or just be life, but just learning and being a little bit better every day. One of my biggest fears is to look back a year ago and realize that I'm the same person that I was then. And I think that it can be a bumpy path, right? I don't think that every day you're going to show up and be better than the version of you yesterday. But I think if you just keep working on growing and learning, eventually you get there.
Yeah, you will. And so given that motivation, how do you measure success?
That's a rough one. I'm someone that is always kind of looking for more. I actually had an old boss of mine that did very intensive QBRs with his team, and it's
quarterly business reviews.
Yes, but they were really all encompassing of life, and it's something that I've implemented for myself, where I take notes on where I am today, what I'm working on, and where I want to be in the next 3 months, and forcing myself to look back and see what's grown and changed. Because I've noticed if I don't stop and have that conversation with myself, I don't necessarily recognize the growth or the success.
Yeah, reflection is needed. And I know I suffer with this. Sometimes when I have goals and I get there, I don't celebrate them enough to actually review them a bit and move on. It's important to do that as well.
Yeah. I would have to agree.
Looking for a powerful way to reach business leaders and engage consumers? The Joey Pinz podcast connects brands like yours with an audience that listens, engages, and takes action. High impact exposure with a fast growing loyal audience. Millions of views and listens across major platforms. Sponsors see increased brand awareness, trust, and conversations. We make sponsorships simple and effective with custom ad placements that fit your brand, deep audience engagement through authentic conversations, long-term exposure across podcast platforms and social media. Don't miss the opportunity to connect with your ideal customers. Visit joeypinz.com/sponsor to secure your sponsorship today. Or you can email us at sales@joeypinz.com. The Joey Pinz podcast, where conversations drive results.
And it's a sliding scale. If I were to ask you this question in a year or a month or something, how you measure success, it can change.
I completely agree.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. It's almost funny. It's almost like the personality test that people take.
Yeah.
They say if you took the same, you took the same test every day for a year, they say there's like a 35% variance.
Really?
Which is very wide for how much people really
Sure.
grow their life or like measure themselves around. 35% is wild.
Yes.
And I read that it was a scholarly article, and I
more
was
than
like,
a third.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I always wondered about that because we used to take the discs annually. And then you start thinking, I remember how I answered this. And then that starts coming in. Yeah.
I think we're all trying to deep down beat the test,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
I don't know what we're trying to beat,
They
but
don't
we
know
are.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
I know me.
Exactly.
Morgan, thank you so much for your time. Anybody listening and watching, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely reach out on LinkedIn, or my email is mhines, HINES, @navan, NAVAN.com, and I'd love to chat and connect.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources, and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.